I'm probably going to be going back to Indiegogo, but before I do, I wanted to take a minute and show you why, as a website, Indiegogo fucking sucks. Not just for someone who produces comics, but for someone who buys them. Okay, so check this out. This is the Kickstarter homepage, and what's important here isn't how much more activity, money, and success you see here, but how it's organized as a place to go for crowdfunded comics. You can see right at the top, comics and illustration. You go there and it's divided into subsections, comic books, graphic novels, and the like. Again, I'm not talking about the amount of activity, the bigger names, the more successful campaigns, or the fact that there's so much going on here that they need subsections. It's how everything functions. Here's the comic book section, and there are currently 11,619 campaigns running that vary wildly in terms of success. You'll find ones that are making bank and many more that aren't doing anything. You can sort them by funds raised, what's been launched most recently, what's ending soon. So as a consumer, anyone can come here and see what's happening, what's doing well, what isn't, what's fresh and brand new. But most importantly, they see nothing but active campaigns, which means they are abuzz with what's currently happening in crowdfunded comics. Okay, now let's take a look at Indiegogo. As you can see, the comic book section is not visible on the homepage. Scroll down, nope. Categories, nope. You have to go into Explore and look for the comic book section. Okay, so here's the comic section. You'll notice that unlike Kickstarter, it doesn't tell you how many campaigns there are. But at least we're here, so let's see what's happening. And this is where we run into the biggest difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Because unlike Kickstarter, whose crowdfunding campaigns are a set window of unalterable time, on Indiegogo you can keep your campaign page open indefinitely, like a storefront. This campaign, for example, ended more than 3 years ago, and yet on Indiegogo it is the 5th highest trending campaign. Now, is there anything wrong with that? Well, no. If a book continues to sell more than 3 years after it closed, it's trending. But I'm about to show you what is wrong with that in terms of web design. Imagine going into your LCS and in the new release section there's a comic book that never leaves. It just stays there under new releases week after week, month after month, year after year. And what's more, there isn't just one, the new release shelf is littered with them. Here we have a campaign that hasn't just been closed for 6 months, it's not even open as a storefront. So for the purposes of this analogy, imagine going into your LCS and on the new release shelf, there's a picture of a comic book that isn't even for sale. It's just taking up that real estate for no reason. Here we have a campaign that isn't even a comic book. It's a fundraiser to send a stand-up comic to an arts festival. You see these from time to time because Indiegogo doesn't do anything in terms of quality control. The storefront is open and it's still collecting funds even though the actual event it was being fundraised for happened 6 months ago. So now imagine walking into your LCS and on the new release shelf there's a donation jar to help pay for something that already happened and has nothing to do with comic books. Here we have campaigns that are closed, didn't fund, and aren't even open, and yet they are more accessible than most of the other campaigns. I can't even think of an analogy for a consumer experience. Maybe going into your LCS and the shelf space is being used for comic books that don't even exist? Now you might say that's not fair. I mean, look, Indiegogo has the ability to search for what's new, but unfortunately it only gets sadder from here. Yeah, this is what's fresh and new on Indiegogo Comics. 5 campaigns, 3 of which haven't raised a penny, with a couple more that are hardly doing anything. For context, when you launch a campaign on Indiegogo, your page will be kept here on the Just Launch page for a few days, maybe a week, I don't remember. In the cycle of any campaign, the most important times are right after a campaign launches and right before it ends. And Indiegogo does let you search for campaigns that are about to end, and it only gets sadder. Here it is, here's a big closeout. 5 more campaigns, 3 more that haven't managed to raise a cent, and 1 that maybe has a chance of making its goal. Now, is this incredibly sad compared to Kickstarter? Yes, but what I'm interested in is what produces these results and makes Indiegogo an absolute joke for crowdfunding comic books. Because what you see here is the result of an entire ecosystem. Because if you haven't just launched your book, aren't high on trending, and it isn't closing soon, there is no feasible way for anyone to even know it's there. Going back to the analogy, it's like if your LCS hid comic books from users, and only customers who happen to know about them could buy them by asking for it by name at the counter. The entire ecosystem of Indiegogo is beyond broken for comic book creators and for customers. And the thing about ecosystems is that everything feeds everything else. Having a thriving trending feed feeds the books that were just launched, the books that are closing soon, and the campaigns that are now a storefront. But this is a fucking mess. It makes the already daunting task of crowdfunding a comic book that much closer to impossible. But more importantly, it spoils the experience for the hungry consumer looking for new and upcoming books to support. I don't know if the solution is to section off closed campaigns to their own section or just have a way to filter them out, but not giving the consumer the ability to only view what is currently active makes for a dog shit shopping experience, and it only drives home the point that Indiegogo is the place to have once been, not a place to be for creators or consumers.